absolutely one of my most favorite tunes. Definitely, This Land is Made for You and Me. Good morning. I'm Sophia Haas-Tingy, and I am a member of the Board of Trustees here at South Valley UU Societies. My pronouns are she, her, hers, and sometimes they. Come, whoever you are welcome here. No matter your age, your size, the color of your eyes, your hair, your skin, you are welcome here. No matter your gender, whom you love, how you speak, or whatever your abilities, you are welcome here.
Thinking about celebrating Biden on church. Is that what you were thinking?
You are welcome here, whether you come with laughter in your heart or tears in your eyes, you are welcome here. No matter what you've experienced in your past, no matter what awaits you in the future, you are welcome here. Whether you believe in God all of the time, or some of the time, or none of the time, you are welcome here. This is a community of open minds, loving hearts, and willing hands. You are welcome here at South Valley Unitarian Universalist Society.
This season has been one that has been full of hardship, loss, and uncertainty. And yet, joy arises. Joy arises and settles and blooms in our heart. Today, we celebrate the victory of an election process that, despite fears of its undoing and the undermining of the democratic process, seems to have unfolded largely peacefully and without incident. As Unitarian Universalists, we held the line these last few months that democracy matters, that every vote must count, that honesty, integrity, and character matters when it comes to leadership. It is important to celebrate today. Let us do so with joy. We celebrate the arrival of the very first Asian American, African American woman elected as vice president. I just want to go, yes! I just want to celebrate that because this is the first year that my daughter has voted. And it is the 100th year anniversary of women getting suffrage. And on that anniversary, we elected a woman to vice president. So I'm wearing my suffragette pearls and my suffragette white, and I will be in solidarity with this joyful day. And we celebrate not because we are uniform in our political beliefs or in our approaches to how justice has to work. That is not a requirement to be faithful as a Unitarian Universalist. What is required to be faithful as a Unitarian Universalist is to believe that our lives matter, that the vulnerable and the marginalized and the oppressed, that their voices matter, and that democracy is what makes the difference in our world, that helps us to hedge against those forces which would divide us, and instead to always look for that light of hope, for that joy of togetherness, and for the assurance that comes when we know that we can make change when we work together. We celebrate today because we believe in the inherent worth and dignity of all people, the importance of free and fair elections, and the victory for the vulnerable, the marginalized, the oppressed, and their various allies. So this morning we co-create a space for joy and celebration as we recommit ourselves to standing in solidarity with the vulnerable. Now is the time to celebrate. Tomorrow the work goes on. I'm going to invite you to join us in our first hymn this morning, number 188, Come, Come, Whoever You Are. And while you will be muted, if you want to sing it as a round, go ahead.
Come, come, whoever you are, wanderer, worshiper, lover of
Anne is going to put the chalice lighting words in the chat box. If you have a small candle or chalice in your own home, we welcome you to light it with us. Please unmute yourselves and feel free to stand as we all say our chalice lighting words together. We light
this chalice with
the
warmth of love,
the light
the light of truth,
truth,
and
and
the energy of
energy
action.
of action.
all we need is one. Again, my name is Brian Devick. My pronouns are he, him, and his. We would like to extend an especially warm welcome to those of you who are visiting for the first time. We are so glad you're here. We would love to get to know you. Our greeter today, Anne, is going to drop our connection card in the chat box for any of our newcomers so you can be connected with our community. This is a caring, supportive community. If you find yourself in need of support or care, or just a listening ear, please fill out our pastoral care card, and our pastoral care team and our minister will be in touch. The link to our pastoral care card is now in the chat box. You can also find it on our website. All of our online services are intergenerational. To find out more about the religious exploration programming, please contact Rebecca Britt, the Director of Religious Exploration. Her email address is being dropped in the chat box right now. We have lots going on here at South Valley, and one of the best ways to get connected and stay connected is via our weekly newsletter, Happenings. You can sign up to receive our newsletter by sending an email to Lori Quigley. Her email is being dropped in the chat box now. Her email is, oh, sorry. Our community calendar is on our website, lists midweek events and classes that you can also find us on Facebook. Although we are physically separate, we are still connected. A few announcements. First, we'll go to really great news about the auction. It's happening, and we're sitting here in the sanctuary, and there's all these tables lined up with items, and I'm sure there are lots of services being offered. But I'll let Kristen May unmute herself and tell us more about that.
Yes, it was really fun to see those of you who were able to stop by yesterday. We are going to be there again today from 1 to 4, and then Saturday next weekend, which is also the day of the auction. We will be there from 11 until 3. This is a chance for you to, if you're donating any silent items, you can drop them off at that time. Also, items for the children's auction, we'll be taking those. If you haven't bought your ticket yet, I can help you buy your ticket or help you with any issues you're having. With that, we have our swag bags for the auction you can pick up. And we also have some fun cocktail kits. This is one of them for our Moscow Mule. So for a donation, you can have, you just add your own alcohol and you can have a cocktail to enjoy during the auction. Another just something I want to point out today is the last day to be entering your donations into our auction website, which is auction.svuus.org. So if you're planning on donating for our silent auctions, please do that today. Reach out if you have any problems doing that. That's also where you can go to buy tickets to the auction. For those of you who have bought a ticket or will be buying a ticket, this week I'll be mailing out the links, the Zoom link for the auction, and then instructions on how you can be bidding in the silent auction, and just kind of some overall information about how the auction will run. So look out for that. And I look forward to seeing everyone for a big party on Saturday. Thanks.
A couple of other announcements today. Leadership Council meets at 12:30 today in the same room, in the same Zoom room as right now. And then there's also a listening room at 4 p.m. tonight with Reverend Laura. She'll just be there to chat with whoever comes by, and if you need someone to talk to, and tough times that we are going through, or even if you need somebody to talk to be joyful about justice, she'll be there for that, and it'll be a community to listen. So we will now share the warmth of community. You are invited to unmute yourself at this time. It'll be a little chaotic for a moment, but you are welcome to call out to one another in the Zoom space or use the chat box to say hello and let us know where you are joining us from.
Hi,
Oh, happy day.
Hello, congratulations.
Hey, everybody.
Good day. It's a good day.
Happy
It's a
day.
good day.
Very happy day.
Hey, everybody.
Isn't it great?
Got it. Hallelujah.
Hi,
Okay. All right, now let's turn our time for all ages. As we revel in the arc of history once more bending towards justice and chart our path forward in our UU faith and UU community, let's consider a story of resilience. Because as our president-elect has pointed out, we're going to need some resilience. All right, so this is the fable of the fern and bamboo. It tells us about a man who was going through a downturn. He was a carpenter, and he was doing very well. He was a very good carpenter, and he was a furniture maker. Then a large furniture company came into their town. It had a lot of money, excellent machinery, and many staff. Soon, they became a buzz in the community. Pause for laughter. Not only could the factory make a lot of furniture, it was also very good quality. Furthermore, it sold them at prices lower than the carpenter could offer. Things started getting worse for him. In just a couple months, he knew he was already on the road to bankruptcy, and this troubled him. To make matters worse, he also began having problems with his wife. She was a school teacher, and shockingly, her salary was not enough to support their 3 children. The carpenter tried to find a new job, but he failed. His wife and he had fights about money, and this also eventually affected their children. They began having problems with their school grades. The carpenter in our story was truly desperate. He was earning less money, and he had less energy and almost no hope at all. His mind began to shut off. He could not see an escape. One day, he went for a walk to a nearby forest to reflect. He was about to know the secret of the fern and the bamboo. He was walking and walking for about a half hour through woods that he knew fairly well, and he decided to kind of just wander a little bit. And he met an old man who greeted him. And he had a small house the carpenter had never seen before. And the man, when he saw the carpenter, invited him in for tea. He noticed the troubled look on the carpenter's face and asked him what was wrong. So the carpenter told him of his misfortunes, while the old man listened to him closely and calmly. When they finished drinking tea, the old man invited the carpenter to see a huge piece of land at the back of his house. There were sprawling ferns and rows and clumps of towering bamboo, surrounded by dozens of trees. The old man asked him to observe both plants, and he told him he had a story to tell. The carpenter was very interested in what the old man had to tell him. The latter began the story. He said, 8 years ago, I took some seeds and planted the fern and the bamboo at the same time. I wanted both plants to grow in my garden because both of them are very rewarding to me. I put all my effort into taking care of them as if they were a treasure. Soon after, I noticed the fern and the bamboo responded differently to my care. The fern began to grow, and in just a few months, it became a majestic plant that adored everything in its presence. The bamboo, on the other hand, was still under the ground, without showing any sign of life. The old man continued with his story, while the carpenter listened with great interest. However, I did not give up. I kept taking care of it with even greater care. Nevertheless, another year passed and my work still did not bear fruit. The bamboo had not grown. The old man continued saying, "Neither did I give up after the second year, nor the third, nor the fourth year. After 5 years, I finally saw a shy twig was sprouting from the ground. The next day, it was much bigger. After a few months, it continued to grow and became an incredible bamboo, more than 10 meters. Do you know why it took so long for it to grow?" The carpenter thought for a moment, but did not know what to say. The old man spoke again and said, "It took 5 years for the bamboo to grow because the plant was working on taking root from the ground. It knew it needed to grow very tall, and that is why it could not come out until it had a firm base that would allow it to grow well. Do you understand?" The carpenter understood the message. He now understood that sometimes things take time because they are taking root. That the important thing is to persist and nurture the relationship and not to lose faith. Before leaving, the old man gave the carpenter a message that he could keep forever. It said, "Happiness keeps you sweet. Trials keep you strong. Sorrow keeps you human. Failure keeps you humble. And success keeps you growing." I'll end the tale there today, but you can imagine how this might have affected the carpenter. As we move forward through our service today, reflect on the past resilience in your life and what resilience might be needed ahead.
Thank you, Brian. May we all be aware of both the fern and the bamboo as they grow and flourish in our life. This community and our church and its many ministries are made possible by the gifts of your time, your talent, and your treasure. Many of you pledge monthly to support our work, and for this, we are grateful. Your gifts help to ensure that we are able to live our values of love and justice in the wider world. Part of our ministry here at South Valley includes sharing our Sunday worship offerings with a charitable organization that aligns with our principles and values. Your gift today will support the work of South Valley and the YWCA of Utah. This organization is dedicated to eliminating racism, empowering women, and promoting peace, justice, freedom, and dignity for all. Their comprehensive family violence services offer adults and children safety, support, and meaningful opportunities to build violence-free lives. Please give generously as we support this fabulous organization that is working tirelessly for social justice in our wider community. We do use an online giving application called Givelify, and you're invited to use this link, this app, using the link that Anne, our greeter, has dropped into the chat box. You can also go to your phone and download the app. Thank you for your generosity and your dedication to justice and love. Anne has now also put our offering words in the chat box, and you're invited to say these words along with me. We are this church. We are its hands, its heart, its voice. Together, we share the wealth of this community and sustain it with our gifts. For all that we have received and all we have found the courage to give, may we be truly grateful. May these gifts be a blessing to South Valley and the YWCA of Utah. This morning, I invite you to join me in co-creating a sermon of shared experience, celebration, and joy. This week brought the very good news of an election now complete. It also, though, brought the news of daily caseloads due to COVID-19 in the United States of over 100,000 per day. And in Utah, yesterday's numbers were 2,950 something. Our positivity rate here in Utah is at or near 19.5%. We are in a crisis, and the election does not erase this suffering. Over 1 million people have already lost their lives, and more deaths are on their way. It will take time to resolve this crisis, and sadly, much of this cost will be borne by those with the fewest resources. This is the unfortunate truth of our current situation. Therefore, the right action to take is to name these hardships, to reaffirm our commitment to our shared values as Unitarian Universalists, and yes, to also celebrate and be grateful that when we vote love, that love wins. So this morning, we're going to co-create in a series of 4 parts, and we'll be using our chat box throughout to do this. We will begin with joy, move into sorrow, move in then to solidarity, and then go out with joy. For joy and sorrow are 2 sides of the same coin, and they walk together with us in life. So let us commit ourselves to both fully embracing joy and allowing sorrow to carry us when it must. That which we can name can become seen, can become heard, can become known, and ultimately can be blessed. Let us co-create this shared space together. Let's start with celebration. A wise person once said to eat dessert first. These past 4 years have been difficult, but the cultivation of joy is essential for our mutual survival. Today is a good day. Let us rejoice and be glad in it, as the biblical writers of old were often saying. Let us rejoice and be glad in it. Let us cultivate joy in the midst and notice what is good, what is right, what is well, and how we are already whole, wholly blessed, and together. At this time, I'm going to invite you, using the chat box, to name sources of joy, sustenance, peace, or gratitude in our Zoom chat box. Anne has dropped some of the prompting questions for you in the chat box. I invite you now to write your celebrations in the chat box, and I will read them out, and then Brian will light candles in response. So let us begin. Happy 2nd birthday to Ruthie. We celebrate Ruthie's birthday. Joy that love and peace have won. First female vice president. Yes. A stable and mature leader. I am joyful for that we had the most votes in 120 years from Kathleen. And Lori Quigley says, I am rejoicing that my dear nephew is expected to fully recover from a terrible car accident. From Scott Renshaw, that the auction is still on. From Anne, having a faith community to share this joy with. And John, the beginning of coming back to our global communities. From Dana, a loving spouse that helps lighten the load. I'm happy that people of color can feel a little bit more safe. From Krista Bowers, my brother-in-law, who has been in the hospital for 4 weeks with COVID, who was not expected to make it. He was miraculously able to come home yesterday. Excellent. Joy and justice and peace were voted in this week. Julianne Best, her mother-in-law, is now recovered almost from COVID. From Lynn, hope for the future, grateful for my family and the wonders of nature. From Sarah, grateful for 3 weeks after being sick with COVID, feeling fully recovered. Lucy, Saturday Night Live was joyful at last. I would just add that there were bells in Paris and in London ringing out for the celebration of justice. Jose, that we stood up against the threat to our democracy. And joy that there's more good people than those that are stuck in racism. Let's hear maybe just one or two more, and we'll bring this part to a close. Sarah, grateful for the beautiful fall weather we've had this year. And I'm grateful for all of you for sharing all that brings you joy. For the celebrations, though some of them are deferred, that are still happening in our families, in our hearts, and in our homes. Let's celebrate that this is a beloved community together. Let us now also move into a space of holding that which is not yet feeling whole. A space for lamentation. A space for what is feeling sad, undone, for what you are missing, for what may yet still be hurting. A wise person once said, remember also that your sadness is tangible, organic, important, and useful. Sadness is what reminds us of what it means to hurt. Sadness drives empathy. It is how we remember not to hurt others and how to lead with our hearts. Your sadness is fuel for understanding mine. At this time, I invite you again to use the chat box to name what has been lost, what may be causing pain or fear or sorrow at this time in your life and in the wider world. I will again speak these lamentations into our sacred space, and Brian again will light candles along with you. I'm sad for the number of those in the US that hold such hate for citizens. Concern for my husband, political risks in both sides of our family. I'm John, missing my friends and exhausted teaching both in person and online simultaneously. Concerned that politicians will dig in and refuse to cooperate. Teaching speech therapy has completely changed. It's less fun. From Maryland. Susan Dyer, I'm profoundly sad for the world that's not not yet raised to the challenge of climate change. From Sarah and from Scott and Laura, for our healthcare workers who are so stretched to the breaking point. For Dana, taking care of COVID patients as a nurse is heartbreaking. We still have a lot of division and internal societal unwellness to address. Yes. Fear that the transition will not be peaceful. Thank you for naming that. Those teens that suffer from the anxiety and fear of the pandemic, worried for all the nursing homes that are having increased COVID cases, adding to isolation and worry that their family members are experiencing, the inequality that it continues to increase through education and COVID. So sad that I'm not sure how our country will heal the division. Concern for students that have not done well the last 2 weeks of dismissal. Systemic racism that is so deep. I'm so sad that Alex Trebek died. Oh, I didn't know that. He was my nightly friend for almost 45 years, writes Lucy. Fear that we will lose more loved ones this year to this virus. Let's hear maybe just one or two more and bring this piece to a close. For all that is on our hearts, may we be brave enough and bold enough to be vulnerable in our hurting, to let our sadness and our wounds show so that we can ask for and receive the care that we need within our families and within this beloved community. And invite Brian to light one more candle for all the joys that remain unspoken, and one more candle for all the sorrows that remain unspoken, but that are whispered across the hearts of those gathered here today. Let us sit in a time of silence. Let us pray. Ted Loder once wrote, "Gentle me, O Holy One." Let us begin our prayer together in this space. O Holy One, Spirit of love, that which is sacred across the ages, across time, and across place, we give thanks for the unfurling of our hearts this morning. The unfurling of our hearts as they relax into a moment of celebration at the arrival of justice. Thank you. Thank you, world. Thank you, 74 million Americans, for showing up to vote. We celebrate the arrival by a slender victory of justice. We celebrate a small wall that says, no more will the dispossessed and the marginalized have to live in daily fear. We push against that. And we stand strong in solidarity with our brothers and our sisters and our siblings of faith. Creative spirit of joy and play, we give thanks that justice does ring true and out, that the moral arc of the universe can indeed bend towards justice when we show up. But Spirit of Life, we know that the work is not done, that there remains tremendous work. There remains tremendous calls for racial justice, for environmental justice, for healthcare justice. We ask, Spirit of Life, that you fill us with clear vision, with an open heart, and with a focused sense of ability to move forward collaboratively with an open heart, despite the differences that run among us. Let there be a call for peace. Let there be a call for right action that surrounds us and fills us and brings us along, so that the dream that is America can actually begin to be born. Let our efforts not be in vain, Spirit. Enliven us, bring us close together, allow our hearts and our minds and our ears to be open and to hear. Let there now be a joyful space in our heart. Also a space for sorrow. And let the intermixing of those remind us that we are truly, as we are called, humankind. Blessed be, and amen. I'm now going to invite Tina to share a short video with us from the Reverend Dr. Kiana Rahman.
Now is the time to call on the memories of the ancestors who thought they could not walk another step toward freedom, and yet they did. It is that time and place to call on the memories of the ancestors who, when the darkness of their lives threatened to take away the hope and light, reached a little deeper and prayed yet another prayer. It is that time and place to remember those who came through the long night to witness another sunrise. It is that time and place to remember the oceans of tears shed to deliver us to this time, to remember the bent knees and bowed backs, the fervent voices asking, begging, and beseeching for loved ones sold off. Time to remember their laughter and joy, though they had far less and little reason for optimism, yet they stayed on the path toward a better day. Time to hold to the steadfast hands and hearts and prayers of the ancestors that have brought us this far. Time to make them proud and show them and ourselves what we are made of. And that their prayers and sacrifices and lives were not in vain and did not go unnoticed, nor have they been forgotten. Did you not know that this day would come, that we would have to change places, that just as our ancestors were delivered, that you would also be delivered? Have you not seen the greatness and power of the creative energy in the universe called God, that moves and has its being through human agency? Have you not seen God in your neighbor's faces, in the homeless, in the battered woman, the trafficked child, the undocumented worker, the dispossessed? It is that time and that place to know that it is our turn that we must leave a legacy for our children and all the children. It is that time and that place. We are the ones we've been waiting for, and for that, let us be eternally grateful.
We have named our joys and our sorrows. We have lifted those joys and sorrows skyward and outward to the world as a prayer on our lips and our hearts. Let us now commit ourselves to the work ahead. You're invited to join me in a litany of solidarity. I will read a statement out loud, and you are invited to respond with the phrase, "and the work goes on." Zoom does limit our ability to engage here, but I hope that you will nonetheless shout your affirmation of solidarity in your best Unitarian Universalist side with love conviction. So let us begin. A litany for justice seekers and a call to action. 161 million people voted, the highest number of people ever to vote in a US election. But this is still only 66% of eligible voters.
And the work goes on.
Coronavirus concerns vastly expanded the use of mail-in ballots and early voting options. 100 million people, voters, took advantage of these safe voting options. Widespread poll closures, though, intimidation at the polls, false claims of voter fraud, and active suppression campaigns on social media that attempt to discourage, confuse, and dissuade people of color from voting continue in many states and via social media.
And the work goes on.
74 million people voted for President-elect Joe Biden. 69 million people voted for the incumbent. We remain a country divided. The time for healing is upon us.
And the work goes on.
Election day was largely peaceful, and Americans waited patiently while votes were counted in an orderly and accurate way.
And the work goes on.
Our democracy held fast, despite 4 years of assault by an authoritarian-leaning administration. We must continue to advocate for a peaceful transfer of power.
And the work goes on.
Today is a good day, for our political processes and our democracy is intact. Every vote was counted, every voice heard. The Electoral College continues to disenfranchise those folks who do not live in swing states, thereby making some voices count more than others. The United States is the only democracy that uses the Electoral College to decide elections.
And the work goes on.
As Unitarian Universalists, we have held fast to our values, organized new networks of care, compassion, and social action in response to all the crises before us. Now is a time to keep on going, keep on building, keep on striving to build the beloved community.
And the work goes on.
As Unitarian Universalists, we have again began to have the necessary and difficult conversations to help us shed the chains of racism, white supremacy, and late-stage capitalism. There will be a temptation to let go of this work in light of electoral successes at the executive level. We cannot, we must not let complacency replace our resolved, focused commitment to inclusive, justice-oriented social policies that respect the inherent worth and dignity of all people and demonstrate special care for the dispossessed, the marginalized, and the vulnerable among us. We stand in solidarity with our brothers, sisters, and siblings in faith.
And the work goes on.
Let there be a joyful noise. Let us all say, and the work goes on. I see some chest bumps and some things going on there. That's awesome.
And the work.
I so wish we could just be all together in the sanctuary.
Oh man, that would have been sweet.
That would have been really sweet. Our call to justice and love goes on. At this time, I'm going to invite you to enter into the chat box again what your call to action is, your call to the wider community and to our world is as we go forth in celebration, in joy, in solidarity, and holding of those sorrows that we share. What is the call that the world needs to hear from you, from South Valley, and to the wider world? What, who, and where, and how are we called to be, to act, to side with love, brightly and with conviction, born of the discernment that there is goodness in humanity to be brought forth, and that we can bring our shared destiny to a bright and joyful place. This shared time will become our shared benediction. I invite you now to bring in, what are you called to be now? Supporting and protecting people of color and holding elected officials accountable is our first part of our benediction.
Excellent. Follow David Attenborough's ideas from the show, Our Planet, on how to stop climate change.
Making space for climate change. Send as much money as you can to Georgia.
To help make Sandy a greener city.
Learn to be an anti-racist.
We need to address policing problems.
How about we need to band together to get through this crisis of COVID together?
I'm called to listen beyond the surface and into the core values of the people I disagree with. That's from Stephen Carter.
Scott and Laura Renshaw, to show our values visibly with signs in front of our house. Yes. I need some new signs.
Yeah, from Dena Wright. Continue helping homeless teens at the Resource Center.
Feeding the hungry. Continuing to feed the hungry and to pay attention to those who are vulnerable in our community.
Kate says, I'm planning to rejoin the writing circle of the Sierra Club to highlight issues in the Salt Lake Valley that affect disadvantaged people.
John and Sutton Cooper, I will continue to provide a safe and creative space for my students, showing them that you can share your ideas, create things that help you to thrive and heal and be with each other, even in times of extreme stress and struggle.
Again from Scott and Laura, for SVUUS. Wow, that sounds like a great chant. SVUUS.
SVUUS.
To find effective ways to get our message of love and hope out into the community.
To help the unhoused, from Krista Bowers, to help the unhoused to find safe, affordable homes.
Kathleen says, not giving in to pandemic fatigue.
From Shawnee Roberts, support the influx of refugees who may start arriving at much higher levels again next year.
Zach Stickney, not being satisfied simply with a Biden-Harris victory, but pushing them on progressive policies, a Green New Deal, and a truly transformative vision for America.
From Jose, finish my bachelor's in marketing by the end of next spring so I can facilitate the execution of my goals and ultimately contribute to the progression of society in the best way that I possibly can. Yes. Yes.
That's excellent.
We have time maybe just for one more. What about you, Brian? What is your call to action?
What is my call to action, man? Like all of those? My call to action is engaging and listening and realizing that the other 70 million people who did not vote on the side of explicit justice, most of those people are with us on this topic. Most of them want justice, and votes are for myriad reasons.
Yeah. I pray that we will go forth from this time celebrating, but with an open hand, because it is with an open hand that we can work together with one another. We have one more that came in, finish my degree in education so that I can influence future generations. And let's say yes to education, yes to healthcare, yes to protecting the vulnerable frontline workers right now in education and in healthcare, at our grocery stores, at our utility companies, those who are putting themselves on the front lines and are risking in order to keep our society functioning. Let our call to justice be a call of care and support to them. May it be so.
May it be so.
And amen. Let's sing together. David has prepared number 100. I've got peace like a river for us. Let us sing out together with one another.
I've got voice like a river, I've got peace like a river, I've got peace like a river in my soul. I've got peace like a river, I've got peace like a river, I've got peace like a river in my soul. I've got joy like a fountain, I've got joy like a fountain, I've got joy like a fountain in my soul. I've got joy like a fountain, I've got joy like a fountain, I've got joy like a fountain in my soul. I've got love like an ocean, I've got love like an ocean, I've got love like an ocean in my soul. I've got love like an ocean, I've got love like an ocean, I've got love like an ocean in my soul. I've got pain like an arrow, I've got pain like an arrow, I've got pain like an arrow in my soul. I've got pain like an arrow, I've got pain like an arrow, I've got pain like an arrow in my soul. I've got tears like the raindrops, I've got tears like the raindrops, I've got tears like the raindrops in my soul. I've got tears like the raindrops, I've got tears like the raindrops, I've got tears like the raindrops in my soul. I've got strength like a mountain, I've got strength like a mountain, I've got strength like a mountain in my soul. I've got strength like a mountain, I've got strength like a mountain, I've got strength like a mountain in my soul.
Anne is going to put the chalice lighting or chalice extinguishing words in the chat box. You are invited to unmute yourselves and say our chalice extinguishing words together. We extinguish this chalice,
but not the warm community,
light
light of truth,
or the
Or
energy
the energy of
of action.
We
We
hold
hold each other
in our
hearts till we meet again.
if you know, Brian, but Ode to Joy, which we just heard, was originally from a poem called Ode to Freedom. And it is often used at protests for liberation. It was used in Tiananmen Square, and it was used during the Arab Spring to resist tyranny around the world. So I play it today in solidarity with all those justice movements and for the times and the moments of celebration along the way. I'm also reminded of the biblical prophets from the Hebrew Bible who call us to a space of justice, of hope, and of joy. Our closing words are from Isaiah chapter 55, verses 12 and 13. The prophet Isaiah writes, "You will go out in joy and be led forth in peace. The mountains and hills before you will burst into song," or snowflakes as the case may be. "And all the trees of the field will clap their hands. Instead of the thorn will grow the cypress, and instead of briars will come up the myrtle. This will be for the glory of the Lord, for an everlasting sign which will not be destroyed." Go forth now with a spirit of joy and love and care and compassion on your lips and in your heart. May your joy be complete in the midst of knowing that indeed the work does go on. Blessed be. Amen. Go now in peace. And the people raise their hands and they go forth. Our service is at an end. We'll take a short break and then we'll come back for social time. May you be well.
Bye, Grandma Lynn.
Bye-bye.